Hi there gamers, welcome back to Cryptic Gaming. Today we're going to be playing Skull and Bones.
Alright gamers, welcome back. So I wanted to take a moment to explain to all of our new players just coming into Skull and Bones some of the mechanics that you're going to run into in the game, and also just kind of explain what it is you're looking at. You're going to reach some points where you're going to lead left scratching your head trying to figure out exactly what's going on with the storyline. So coming into this game, you're going to realize that there's quite a few different types of ship builds whenever you get to your shipwright. Okay, and we're going to explain those types of ships and things as well. But first things first, you're going to be needing to find Skurlock. This is the gentleman up these stairs here, and he is going to be your first contact within the game to pick up your main mission lines. Now, main mission lines, they have a little bit of a story to them, not a whole lot of a story. Essentially, what your storyline is you are your own director. So you have some basics as far as the Pirate Lords of St. Anne area here. Then, of course, you have your Pirate Lord, who is over to Loch Panjara to the north, which is where you're going to access your first medium ships coming into the game. Now, if you're looking for the large ships, they have not been released yet. That will release around the middle of July. We're getting pretty close to it. It's around 20 more days, something like that. So we're getting pretty close to finally seeing those large ships. You still have time to get situated in the game here, guys. So what you need to understand with the mechanics of this game is it is essentially like any other type of an MMO RPG that's out there. If you've never played one of those, or maybe you have played one, I want to explain it to you in some simple terms. Now, while your avatar, your captain, doesn't actually do any combat in the game himself, as of yet, Season 3, ground hand-to-hand combat is coming into this game, so that's something we're going to be looking forward to later, but we're still a couple seasons away from that. But you're going to be picking your ships. Now, when it comes to ships, I'm going to show you some of the basic ships that I like, and I'm going to explain why I like them. And we're going to talk about each ship type. So maybe if you've played MMOs before, that's mass multiplayer online, there's different types of roles you can play within those games as well. So you could be a healer, you could be a DPS, you could be a high agile DPS, you could be a tank, you could be a tank that has some DPS to you. Damage per second is what we're talking about, how much damage you're putting out. And your ships are the same rating here. Now, whether you're using a small hull or a medium hull, each one's going to have a specialty class. One of the things you need to think about, small hulls, think of those as light armor characters. They don't have a lot of heavy armor, but they're more agile in battle, meaning they move around a little better, they have better turning radiuses and things like that. You're going to see a lot of the same types of perks on those. And the Dow is just a hunter. It's just a hunter ship. All you do is you go out, you throw your spear, catch fish, catch sharks, alligators, hippos. A lot of fun to be had around the islands, and whether you're in Red Isle, Africa, or even over into Loch Panjara, you're going to find a lot of really great fun to do that with your friends or to do it alone. Now, the rammer class Badar, that's the one that you've seen featured at the beginning here, right after our intro. This ship is very agile. This is probably one of the most agile in the game at the moment. Now, you can also really set this thing up where you're going to have like really fast acceleration, so you don't need a real big running start to be able to get those ram damages like the Brigantines. Plus, if you're doing a lot of your takeovers, which is really where you're going to run into your player versus player in the base mode of the game here. Now, of course, Death Tides is going to be a little different. You could be in enclosed areas, you could be in open waters, just depending on the map that you end up in on that. That's not what this video is about. But when you have this ship upgraded, you get a perk that is called, and this is true of any of the small ships, you get a perk that is called the River Rat perk, which increases your turning radius and even your speed of this ship when you're in the rivers. Now, if you're not sure what I mean by rivers, I'm talking about on the map. All of these little tributaries and rivers where most of your factories and things are going to be at. A lot of factories, these are typically where your battles happen. Okay, now what you're going to learn is a lot of people are not taking their medium ships in here anymore. In fact, they're avoiding it altogether. It could be because most folks have completed capturing most of their factories, But you're going to have a edge on any ship in here if you're in a small ship, especially if you're in a rammer class. And I'm going to show you a really great build on that. You've probably have seen some of the early videos where they give this game a lot of hate, and you'll see them into Badar, and they're just basically dogging that ship. That is actually a really nice ship, and here I am over a year now, and just really starting to enjoy being able to use that ship the way it was designed to be able to be used. You know, I got into the high DPS stuff and all that at one time, doing sandbuck builds, and you can find a lot of build videos, guys, just looking back in the Skull and Bones folder here of Cryptic Gaming. You're going to find a lot of stuff. If you look into the live tutorials, you're going to find other games like New World Eternum, Star Trek, and things like that as well. So just trying to keep the most recent builds and things like that in those new folders. So again, going back to your Codex, this is under the Knowledge tab. This is going to tell you everything. When you ask me, well, where did you get that? Typically, I'm not going to know where to get it at anymore, because a lot of these things, they were on islands, and they probably still are on islands, and you can buy them for silver. A lot of times, furnitures and things, even ship blueprints and stuff, or you're going to have to get them from Blackwood. But you can look at the Codex here, and it's going to show you your ships, your captain tools, all of your weapons for all deck weapons. We're going to explain this real quick. All deck means your top deck and your mid deck on a ship. Now, you may not have mid deck access until you upgrade your ship, and we'll discuss how to upgrade some ships here as well. Then top deck weapons are just the top deck. You do not get to use a mid deck weapon when using small and medium ships. The rumor is when large ships come out, you will then be able to access the mid and lower decks to set up what type of weaponry you want on there to better, you know, kind of specialize your ship. So we'll see how that works out. Then, of course, you have your bow weapons. Now, bow weapons are just the front of the ship, the bow of the ship, and that's where you're going to be using these. They're like flamethrowers and stuff. To me, some of the ballistic weapons that they have, they're okay. I don't typically mess with bow weapons. There's a lot of folks who enjoy them, and if you're one of those guys that enjoy them, then go for it. Now, top deck weapons are going to have the highest damage coming out of the shop, basically, which means if you look at, let's see here, let's find us a long gun 5. Here we go. So you can see the damage is 2885 base. Now this is non-ascended. For those who don't know what ascensions is, that means that you can actually add attributes to your weapons in this game. So you can add explosives, you can add fire, you can add lightning, you can even add flooding damage and things like that, piercing to get a higher, you know, penetrating armor and things like that. But this comes with piercing 1 using a long gun 5. Then you have 4 ascension points. Right now, fully ascended, a long gun 5 is more powerful than any of the other weapons you're going to be able to open up in the game, in the past, or currently in the game. Now, the Lange Cartois. Now, we're talking base damage. One of the great things about some of these weapons, and why you would end up wanting to go with those, is you end up with secondary effects such as this impending boom, which is if you hit a weak point on a ship, it then sets this little light that counts down, and you'll see it start to flash red, and it will explode, causing an additional 7,500 damage to every ship within a 65-meter radius. So this is a great weapon. I love this. This is actually in the pass. If you're just coming into the game and you're going, okay, what's the pass he's talking about? Before you go any further in the video, let me show you that. If you tab over here to the little skull and bone icons up in the top corner, the little top center, this is the Smuggler Pass, and you get this every season, and it doesn't take long to run this. You can typically team up with some guys and just go around and farm forts, destroy your, the forts, and destroy the towers and things like that, and that's really going to get you there quicker. If you jump into tier 2, obviously you get there a lot quicker because everything has higher XP, but it takes about a day and a half typically to run out through this pass and get all the XP. When I say a day and a half, I'm talking a solid day of farming and grinding on the game. So you're not going to come in here and hit it for an hour and be done with it, unless you're maybe in tier 2. Then you can knock it out pretty quick. It doesn't take long. So you get ship blueprints, you get weapons and things. If you look at the top left hand corner, it says all rewards redeemed. That's not just talking about the quartermaster rewards, the gunner master, and the ship masters. As you spend what they call smuggler points, is earned through infamy. For those who are familiar with these types of games, it's your experience points. The amount of damage points you're putting out, it gives you experience. Now you have challenges here. We're going to tab over to that. That's going to give you certain types of SP. So some of them will actually award you enough SP to get a token and a half, or even 2 or 3 tokens. You have weeklies that you can do, you have seasonals you can do, but by no means do you have to follow the challenges. Okay, all you have to do is open up your SP smuggler points up there, and for every 1,000 infamy you earn blowing up ships or attacking anything in the game, you're going to get a token. Once you have spent 45 tokens, I don't recall all of the awards that was in the smuggler pass, as far as not just coming through here opening this up. As you can see, you get carronage, you can get upgrade parts, you can get different types of materials as far as your, like the toolings, favors. You can pick up wicked harvest chests. You can even get, if you decide to pay for the advanced pass, you can even get different types of cosmetics. I'm not saying you have to do that, totally up to you if you want to do that. Now, I like to get the cosmetic passes. That's just my thing. I think they're worth that. And then mix and match cosmetics that I've earned throughout the year and even earned in other aspects of the game. But once you spend 45 smuggler points, you get to have whatever ship blueprint is being sponsored for the year, or for the season, okay? And this season it is the schooner. Like I say, there are still 19 days remaining. Looking at that top right hand counter, there's 19 days remaining. That's enough time to get the schooner. If you're looking at a ship and you go, I really want one of the older ships, something like a brig or a bark or something like that, you're going to have to talk to Blackwood, and you're going to want to keep your Kufur bars, Kufur, however you pronounce it. This gentleman here, he weekly gets a rotation, and I typically see new ships every other week, but he gets new weapons and stuff as well. So you have seasonal items, which pretty much stay the same. Then you have time limited items. These actually rotate out weekly, it seems like. And this week we are looking at the brig blueprint and the bark blueprint. He does not, or at least has not in the past, typically portrayed two ship blueprints. It's only been one. So couple of blueprints there. Your first knee-jerk response as you come into the game and you start earning some of the Kupfer bars off of that pass is going to be to come and buy cosmetics. Okay, that, like I say, it's your game to play how you want to do. I will warn you not to do that. These cosmetics, most of the stuff, you're going to be able to get better cosmetics just playing the game. You're going to open up things. You're going to be able to buy better cosmetics with silver, and you'll reach a point where you'll be able to get a lot of silver and stuff. And definitely be watching the videos. We go over a lot of that stuff, teaching you how to do that without having to make an extra long video showing all the new stuff, the same stuff over here. So just talking with some of the new guys, they said that's the number one thing they wish they had knew, was to save their Kupfer bars from the past, because once you reach around rank 8, it almost feels like you hit a wall, because you're looking at weapons and you're trying to figure out the best weapon of the game, and people's first reaction is to earn some pieces of 8, earn some Kupfer bars, and go over there and buy some garbage like that 1,000-year monsoon that nobody uses. Very few people use that weapon. Now, if you can fully ascend one, you might be able to get something decent out of it, but what I will tell you is you're not going to be able to put the kind of damage output off of a 1,000-year monsoon as you can a Bombard 5 that you just set up to have flooding effects. You're going to get a lot more damage from that. So focus on the basic weapons. Now, this is Yanita Nara. Once you reach Kingpin, you're going to pick up certain missions from her. I don't know if you can see her before you reach Kingpin. It sounds like y'all can actually see her now, so you can come in and you can buy items from her as well. She has items at time limited items, just like over at Blackwood. Her stuff doesn't typically reset weekly. It's the same things. Now, you will end up with specialty items as far as like event items she'll sell. There's an event coming up called the Honor List. You're going to want to participate in that because you can earn some really great weaponry from that as well. Then most of her stuff is going to cost pieces of 8. As you can see, there's pieces of 8. These are gold doubloons, and you have to have these pieces of 8 to buy any of the stuff that she's got in her stash. Now, I would tell you some things that she has that are worth having, in my opinion, are the Sandbuck blueprint. It's 3,500 pieces of 8. I wouldn't recommend running out and buying it right now. You can, like I say, you can focus in on some other things. It's a great ship. But okay, so that's how you do the pass, guys. Back to our ship stuff. Like I say, don't try to rabbit trail off, but if I don't cover it, then there's going to be a million questions of the stuff, if I don't cover it when it comes up in the video. So as we were talking about the weaponry, each ship you need to match up the type of weaponry you want. So if there's a ship you really like, so like the rammer. Now, I will tell you that this ship here, you can throw any kind of weapon you want on her. It's not really going to get any kind of an amplifier to that weapon because this is a ramming ship. Now, the most damage you will put out with the ship is going to be through ramming, as you've seen at the very beginning of the video, taking out those mini bosses with just ramming them a couple times. You'll bump into them, shoot them in their sunk. So, if you go up and you're using any other ship and you're bracing and ramming, you're not putting out the kind of damage that you can do with this. So, when I build out a rammer class ship, which would be the Badar, or even a brigantine, this is for open waters, blue water, the big blue water. So you're not going to be able to turn as well in those little tributaries and stuff as you can with the Badar. And I can sink these brigantines all day long, just bumping into them like crazy in those things. You're not going to get as much of a turn radius out of them. They're still an agile ship, but you got to think of what it is that you're going to build out. But this here, same thing, you would want to build that toward flooding damage. So I'm going to show you an example here, guys, and you can build your ships however you want. I just want you to understand the mechanics of the game. So managing our ship here, like I said, with weapons, I'll show you what I'm using. You can use whatever you want. I went with the past weapons and then the event weapons that come from the honorless event, the large or the Lange Cartui or Katoa, however you want to pronounce this thing, guys. Impending Boom, it has Siege perk on there. It's got Explosive 2, Piercing 1. I put Rapid Reload, Siege, and Amplified Explosive on there when I ascended that. Then declines, we have the Imminent Bang on there. Pretty much Impending Boom. Imminent Bang, it sets that delay on there. You have a 3% chance to inflict a delayed explosion. If you're hitting those weak spots, you're going to set one with this thing. So Combustion 3 adds 30% as explosive damage. I went ahead and threw on some Incendiary to trigger up some burning damage. Amplified Explosive on there twice is going to increase the existing amplified damage of the explosives that's on here. So, and I did that again over here with this client. Then on the rear, I am using a Fire Bombard 3, and this is something that you can pick up pretty quick in the game. And I went ahead and I rolled this thing up. It has Explosive 2 and burning naturally on here. Then I went ahead and just kind of focused in on, well, no, I didn't even ascend this one, so I'm running a base weapon here on the rear. So typically I will take it, I will bump those up and add electricity or something to it, and I may have one that's already rolled up I could add there, but it looks like I've actually got most of those in use. So, but like I said, usually I'll put like Shock on there, Amplified Electric, and Second Storm on that particular weapon. Now with the Warhammer, I've only ascended it one time. I didn't really see putting a lot of input into this ship. The reason why is my damage is coming from the ramming ability of the ship itself. So when I look at what my abilities are here, so I am ranked 7 of 7, which means I can no longer upgrade this any higher unless they allow us to upgrade it higher in the game at a later date. It specializes in DPS damage, which is going to be an aggressive playstyle for this because you're running up and ramming them constantly. So it increases damage from ramming by 25%. It gains an additional speed while pursuing an enemy ship within 300 meters. So you're going to start seeing that the ship starts to move faster as you start to approach. Once you hit 300 meters, it increases. At that point, I then use what is called a water barrel or a water flask, and that increases my speed as well. So that's going to amplify that. It applies the flooded status effect to enemy ship upon ramming it, and then it increases its reload time of that ship by 30% for 30 seconds. So essentially what I'm doing with this, when I come up and I ram your ship, I've made it so you're flooded, so you're not able to turn very well. Your speed slows down. That gives me a chance to, one, I'm going to hit you with my long guns on approach at your weak point. I'm probably going to end up doing a shell shock so you can't get a shot off. And then I'm going to ram you in your weak point. As I turn around, I'm going to pop you with my Klein, setting another imminent boom that's going to send another explosive radius coming off of your ship. And then if it triggers over to other ships, they're then going to explode and send that damage back onto you as well. And then as I turn, I'm going to be hitting you with my bombards and then firing my Warhammer off on you as well. And I'll spin around and I'll hit you again. And typically that's the end of the battle. You're done. I don't care if you're in a level 15 battle junk or whatever. You're pretty much done once you hit get hit twice with this thing. And it's a lot because of the perks that I'm going to show you on here as far as what I've added to the furniture. So you have this jousting perk. This increases damage from ramming based on the current speed, capped at 150%. Ramming a target reduces its armor by 300 by 30 seconds. So I'm reducing your armor, and I'm doing 150% of damage based on my speed, and I'm typically hitting between 18 and 20 knots when I smash into you. Heavy arsenal, you can equip the front weapons, auxiliary weapons, and unlock rear gun port, increasing damage and repair amount by 50%. These are perks that are added as you upgrade your ship, guys. The jousting, the heavy arsenal, then of course that river rat, which is going to increase the turning speed when traversing rivers. I can spin this thing around. It's going to make it so I'm real agile. I can dodge around the stuff you're shooting. If you're shooting bombards or even culverins, you're not going to hit the ship. It's just not going to happen. Whole health 48,200 now that is upgraded. Brace strength 9640, and speed 10 knots, 15 when trimming. Like I said, when you get those perks running in there, the jousting perk and things like that, you can get between 18 and 20 if you're using those water barrels, not to be confused with the water flask. Now, what you can also look at is, what do I want to add on here? Well, like I say, weaponry, that's up to you, but I do recommend using this Pisacha armor. What this does is it has phantasmic thrust, ramming a target, repairs your ship's whole health by 138% of the damage inflicted. Now remember, you're getting a 150% boost on top of the other 30% boost. Now you're getting 138% of that damage that you inflicted back as a heal. Essentially, if you ram a level 12 ship in tier 2, you take him out with one ram and you can completely heal your boat if you're almost dead on your health. So it does massive heals. It has a 5% negation against explosive, 30% against flooding, 5% against fire, 25% against piercing, and 15% against your electricity damage that's typically going to come in. Now, most people nowadays, they're shooting you with flooding damage. I don't know why everyone's using flooding weapons, so you're getting 30% negation against that, so it's not going to do as much to you. The piercing, you're getting 25% perk on there if they can even hit you, and then damage from electricity is reduced by 15%. So just great little armor to have on there. And then when it comes to the furniture, this is what makes the ship side. If you remember, we're getting that 150% damage on top of the 30% damage the ship already has. Now we're adding another 25% to that with the iron cladding station, increasing the damage from ramming by 25%. And then we're adding lead kettle, increasing duration of the flooded effect on the enemy ship by 10%, which we're already adding a 30% of that. Now we're adding another 10 to it, so 40%. So he's going to be able to turn a lot slower. He's not going to be able to take off and move as fast. Then balance mass is going to increase your acceleration and deceleration by 8%. That means you're going to be able to stop, turn around, and take back off a lot quicker than most ships without it. And then I put the secret cache on here. Most of this stuff, like I said, you're going to have to look inside that Codex, guys. That's why I showed you the Codex first. It's going to show you where to get this stuff. It's been over a year since we earned a lot of this stuff. Secret cache reduces the effects of the ship's encumbered state by 15%. Not really something I'm too worried about, because I typically dump and haul my luggage or my stuff right after I make a farming rotation anyway. It increases the turning speed by an additional 8%. That's key. It increases the acceleration by another 8%. Now, I also added rope blocker, which increases acceleration 300% when trim is activated at full crew stamina. I always hit a food bar, which is going to like a piece of food. It fills up my stamina, and then I trigger this so I get that 300% ram increase to just take off. It's also going to consume additional 5% of crew stamina once you trigger that effect, so it does eat a little bit of stamina to take off, but it's not enough. It's kind of negligible. You don't have to worry about that too much. Then this is the other part you want to make sure you add a lightened mass. Yes, you have two of these now, so you have a balance, which is increasing the acceleration and decreasing the deceleration time, so you get turned around. Then this is going to increase the acceleration by another 13% as well. So that with the jousting perk, you're going to take off crazy, and as you've seen, like I said, coming into the video. So this would be what you would consider a light armored agile DPS build. Now you could then use a brigantine, which would be a medium armored agile DPS build. He's not as It's not going to be as agile as this ship. Now, if you take this ship out in the open water and you go get some brigantine, chances are the brigantine's going to smoke you as far as being able to outmaneuver you, because he does get deep blue, and you're now more susceptible to the waves and the currents and things getting you mixed up and messed up out there. But you can still essentially take them out if you stay close enough. You don't need as much ramming room to get started. But every build that's going to be great for one thing is going to have some flaws for something else. That's something you need to realize. Now, they do make ships that you can come in and just slug it out with. They're called tanks. And how you want to build your ships is up to you, but try to build it to its classification. And I have a ship build for pretty much every ship in the game. Actually, I do have a ship build, at least one for every ship in the game. Some of them I use, some of them I don't. Now, the Hulk, this is going to be one of the first tank classes that you get. This is a nice little ship. You get some really great ironclad effects and things like that. And then once you start to upgrade this ship out of 7 of 7, it's going to increase those as well. You can almost build a ship that, one, it's going to be hard to hit, and it's going to be hard to kill, because you're going to be able to get a lot of damage negations based off of the stats of this, compared to a Snow. The Snow, while it's great, it doesn't have all of, I mean, you're looking at 275% here, an increase of armor by 350. This one here is a 5% with 150%. So, like I say, each ship's going to have something that the other one doesn't. This one has a whole health base of 30,000. Of course, this one here has a whole health base of 50,000. Brace of 25,000 versus a brace of 24,000. So, this would be your heavier armored. This is a light armored, meaning that it's going to be a little more agile tank that you can do. Now, Sentinel class. This is going to be a DPS. I'm sorry, no. Sentinel is the cutter. This is going to be a support class. Now, for those who are not really sure what a support class is, that is basically a healing class. No, healing class is pretty great. You can do a lot of really great heals with this ship. And then you have its big brother, which is known as the Bark. That's currently available over there with Blackwood. And you can build these out to heal your friends, or you can build them into what they call a battle bark that heals yourself while you're out doing damage. Now, you're not going to have great high-end DPS unless you have really high-end fully ascended weapons, and then they're not getting any extra boost unless you're running a lot of furnitures to boost them. But you're not really getting any extra effects from the ship to boost those, but you are getting a lot of effects that are going to heal your ship in combat. So that's what the healing class is for, to either heal yourself. It's mainly to heal your group, your pirating friends that you're with. And we use, you'll see it when Banished Souls is the Discord community I'm a part of. For those who are looking for a Discord to have people to game with, I'll post that link in the comments so you can join in. If the link expires, let me know and I'll get you a fresh link. But we usually have at least one healer, typically a couple of healers when we're running forts and things like that, just to keep everybody, having fun. And you may decide you want to run as a healing build, or you may decide that you want to run as a DPS build. So DPS, this is where it really starts to get into your DPS weapon types of stuff. So here's what you want to look at, whether you're using a demi cannon or a culverin. So those are your all deck weapons. For those who are unaware, meaning the top deck and the mid deck will have weaponry on it, so you're getting more shots compared to a top deck only weapon, which would be a bombard or a long gun or a torpedo, which you would have at most, between 3 and 4 shots. I think there's one ship with 5. So, it's one of those things where, like I said, you're going to get some extra perks, but you don't have as many weapons on these small ships. But it doesn't really matter. So for like a barge, this is a beast when it comes to it. This is a fire-based weapon. It sets the ablaze effect. It has wildfire on here as well, where you're going to be able to set up these blaze charge, which is going to send out a fire ring pulse that sends out damage on 125 meters. It increases your weapon damage by 35%. Now, you want to make sure that you're using fire-based weapons when you're using this ship. Now, you can have a secondary effect on there for some explosion or something like that if you want to. And they have furnitures that will charge that shell-shocked effect by the ablaze effect as you're triggering the ablaze charge. It also triggers up your shell shock. So they have a lot of furnitures that work hand in hand, so you can do some massive damage with that as well. And then, of course, when you upgrade this ship, you're going to open up more furniture slots. You're going to open up auxiliary ports. You're going to be able to open up your other weapons and stuff as well. So, like I say, fire-based, you're going to want to use fire-designed weapons. It can be long guns, all guns, up to you. But make sure that you stick with a fire-based weapon when you're using a fire-based ship. A firebrand is what you call that one. So this here is called the Blaster. It's the sloop class. This specializes in explosive weaponry. So this is where you would want to use weapons that specialize in explosive weaponry. So that Fire Bombard 3 I showed you earlier in the video, it has a explosive perk, but it also has a fire perk. So it would work on either this or the firebrand. It's up to you which one you would want to use it on. Now, they do really great jobs on this sloop. And again, you can trigger these, what's known as an AoE, which is an area of effect. And what that does is this is going to send out a blast ring of 1,500 damage within a radius of 150 meters. Now, again, this ship inside tight corridors, like your rivers and stuff, it's going to be just a massive little ship to be able to, once you open up the river rat perk, you're going to dominate a lot of ships that are the larger ships in those tight corridors, because you can turn around and get, out of the way of combat a little easier than they can. And you can get right up close to them with these little short ships. And most people, because of the weaponry they're using, if you get right up next to them, you're going to be guaranteed to hit the weak points. Two, they can't really fire down at you because you're too close. Their weapon, if they're using a top deck weapon only, they're only going to hit the top of your mast, so they're not going to be hitting your weak point. So that's the trick between small ships and medium ships. Now, I'm sure that's going to be true for medium ships against large ships, but there are ways to build around that. So don't just come charging in on somebody, because they might be using demi cannons, which I use a lot on ships, which is going to be mid and top deck weapons. And instead of getting 4 shots, I'm now hitting you with 8 cannons that shotgunning you with massive explosive damage or fire damage and different things like that. So like that climb, that's going to set a charge on your ship that's going to blow you up. So now the larger ships, again, this is one of those things. Think of this Padawan. This is, I will be perfectly honest with you. When we first come in, it was okay. It has the ablaze effect and things. If I had to choose between the Padawan and a Sambuck, I'm going to take the Sambuck every time. This is the Sambuck. Again, this is a fire class ship here. It sets that ablaze effect. Burning damage does a great job. Now this one here, it does set that ablaze effect and stuff like that. You're dealing 1,000 damage within a 125 meter blast, where this one here does 5,000 damage within 150 meters. So I like Sambuck over this Padawan. Like I said, it's not a bad ship. It's just I have a personal preference, but you would want to build this by reading it. It's basically a siege engine. You park it, so that means you're going to want to use things like iron capstans. So when you park, you're taking less damage and you're firing at walls on forts. But the way they have made most of your ships, like your schooners now, you don't even have to park your ship. You have so much damage coming off a broadside of some of these weapons. And when you build out a Bombard 5 and put it on a schooner, you're basically two-shotting walls. So you don't even need the Padawan. It's almost outclassed at the moment. Now, that may change going into Season 2, guys. You never know which way the game's going to go. So, again, tank, the Snow, is known as the Vanguard. Great ship. It's a lumberer. It's kind of slow, but it does a great job in certain aspects. A lot of folks build these out to hunt sea monsters. Brigantine, this is actually the fastest ship in the game right here. Now, it turns okay. Now, obviously, it's not going to turn as well as a Badar when you're in a narrow area. But in the open waters, you almost can't really beat them unless you start getting into the Artificer class, which is a brig. It is, as far as I'm concerned, probably one of the most agile medium ships in the game, as far as being able to just kind of dodge around shots coming at it. Doesn't do a lot in the way of DPS boosting, but it does help to increase your support, aid to friends, and also increases your mine spring loader weapons and stuff like that. Those would be like setting out fire mines or ripper mines, or maybe even healing buoys and things like that. It helps with those spring loader weapons. There's different types of weapons in the game, guys, and you want to try and figure out, the main thing is understand the mechanic. Each ship is going to have its specialized role, and those are the types of weapons you want to use with it. And then you want furniture that's going to help with those, and the way you're going to find which is what and where to find it is in the Codex. Like we say, weapons, it'll show you the locations, you can track each weapon. Armor, same thing. There's certain things that your ship's going to be good, you can build upon that, or maybe it's weekend and you want to boost upon that and try to help your ship out with some of the things with the different types of weapon and different types of armor. So there's actually armor in this ship, like the Crimson Lotus, I believe it is here. Yeah, so after you do a crew attack, this is what I use on my sandbuck. After I trigger off a crew attack, it then boosts my broadside weapon damage by 33%. Now I have a lot of furniture that's already boosting that up by like 40 or 50%, plus I have some pretty souped up weapons on that to begin with. Then you're getting that additional 33%, plus it's recovering your stamina as well. So really great weapon for that. Or armor for that. Then of course you have things like the Buccaneer's Oath, which is if you sink a ship, it can be just a really small ship. It then boosts all of your armor and your weaponry for 30 seconds by 25%. So that's a great one to have in there. Or maybe you don't like coming back to dock. If you get sunk, something happens, you're running sea monsters, this is a great one to put on. It's called the Ouroboros armor. Now you go pick this one up in Yanita. I do remember that. It seemed like it was 50 monstrous teeth for the blueprint, if I'm not mistaken. But you would buy that, and then you'd have to build it out, And what that is if you get sunk and you come back and you restart at sea, it will start to heal that severe damage that plagues your ship, where you can only heal to a certain amount. This actually heals that. Now, if you're on a bark, you wouldn't really need this. Now, if you used it on a bark, it would really amplify the effects of it, because the bark amplifies everything that has a healing effect as well. So for those of you who are looking at some of those weapons, if you played last year, I forget the name of it now, but anyway, it was a weapon that would do damage. It would send a part of that damage back to you as a heal. It would work great on a battle bark, and totally up to you how you want to do that. And again, to find blueprints, when any ship that you see that you like, if you look when I go over here to an armor, I can remove that. If you look at the bottom right hand corner, it'll say track. If it can be tracked, so like this in here, Vault of War, there's an armor blueprint that's from the Sea People Huntsman in Lanitra. Now, I don't imagine I'm going to build this armor out, but I could track that. I could press A. I'm on Xbox. If you're on PlayStation, we'd be pressing X to track, and it's going to show me on the map where it's at. And I'd go to that location, and I would purchase it from them. Okay, so that's something that you can look at doing. And then when it comes to furniture, there's different types of furniture. Major furniture, you can only put one on your ship. As of right now, there's rumor that large ships will be able to have 2 majors. I don't know that for sure. It's just what I've heard. And I'd like to say that's mostly rumor, so we'll have to wait and see. But there's a lot of different effects that you can do. This is things that you want to match this one up mostly to what the key use of your ship is going to be. So iron capstan. So this one here, resist enemy fire when the ship is anchored. If you're the type of player that anchors and you sit and you shoot from a seating position, you should be using this on your ship. I don't care what kind of ship it is that you're using. If you're not like dodging rounds and things like that, and you're just sitting in one spot and you're not using iron capstan, you need to start. It's going to reduce the damage by 15%, but it's also going to increase the threat generation by 100%, which means every ship in the water is going to be threatened by you and start to fire at you. But it's going to reduce the damage taken by 15%. So up to you how you want to use that. A lot of folks use rigging stations, or they will use water tanks, and it's going to be totally up to you how you want to do it. If you're getting an artificer, meaning the brig that you can pick up, you would obviously want to have the buoy locker furniture, because it's going to allow you to cast another buoy out. You can have 2, so you can actually just keep equipping those things out there and to sea. So you want to match it to the base rank that you're trying to do with your ship. Now, if you have a ship, then you're wanting to do a lot of a blaze effect, but you also have an explosive weapon or an explosive perk put on there. Well, you want to be able to also get that shell shock. So you would want to use something like Mark of the Wolf, because you're triggering the ablaze effect, which is going to increase your shell shock charge by 50%. So when you hit them with the explosive weapon in that setup, you're keeping them from being able to shoot at you. That's what shell shock does. You can no longer shoot at them. Maybe you've been in a combat and you're like, hey, well, I want my weapons fire. You've been shell shocked. So that's a great furniture to have on there as well. And it does work against other players, as well. Then of course you have Worm's Breath Churner. This is actually in the Smuggler's Pass. I do recommend getting this one. Unfortunately, hopefully it'll come out with a blueprint where we can build more, but as of right now we have one. You get one apiece. So triggering shell shock on target increases the reload time of the weapons by 20% for 10 seconds. So you could potentially use, if you could use 2 of these like on a large ship, I would be pairing those 2 together. So, but we'll have to wait and see what they end up doing in the game. Now, offensive furniture. These are things that are going to help, one, find weak points. They're going to increase your weapons damage as well. They're also going to be able to rally crew attacks and special abilities of your things, increasing the charge rate of ablaze effects or increasing flooding ratings of, let's see, there was one up here for torpedoes, and then and so on and so forth. Then you have ranged and area of effect. So if you're using things that have an area of effect on their type of damage, it's going to increase the range or the area of effect. I hope that makes sense. Increasing the maximum range, like of a demi cannon, I wouldn't even bother with it, honestly. 250 meters, an additional 10%, you're getting 2 inches. I mean, it's really not that much. Besides, you want to be hitting right at the 250 meter with a long arm perk on a demi cannon, because that's going to increase your damage output anywhere between 40 and 60% coming off of that weapon. So I would typically use these for like the you can use it for a buoy powder house, which is going to increase area of operation of a buoy, or your Brower's powder house, which is going to increase the area of effect radius of mortars, things like that, depending on what it is that you're wanting to do. Strange Elixir, that's a great one there, increasing crew attack charge rates and stuff if you're building a ship that specializes in crew attacks. And then of course you have your projectile speeds. These are going to increase the projectile speeds of your weaponry as well. So, and then the utility furniture, guys. So these are going to be different things. You have miscellaneous to do different things. So it's going to be like your storage compartments, smoke canisters, tool smithy, and they each have their own little effects. And of course you have your defense, so a maintenance forge. This would essentially be like running a Ouroboros armor without having to run an Ouroboros armor. You can put a maintenance forge on. It's going to heal the severe damage once you're out of combat, whereas the Ouroboros armor heals you whether you're in combat or not. So you can use like double planked holes. These are going to increase your whole health. Raised quarter decks, these are going to prevent excessive flooding. I imagine we'll start seeing people run a lot of these. Not a lot of people running flooding damage because you're using 1,000-year monsoons and stuff like that. Leather station, a lot of people start putting these on when they start seeing sandbucks and barges coming around. Campaigny screens, again, this is increasing your whole health. It's also reduces incoming certain types of damages and things like that. So each type of furniture is going to have its own thing. Then you have like status effect furniture. This is going to like increase the durations of effects or reduce the effects on yourself as well. And then of course you have navigation. These are things that are going to increase your stamina, increasing acceleration, like what we were using to balance masts, and the leather rope grips. So this is something that you could use to reduce increased stamina depletion. Lighten the mast, again, I put it under increasing the acceleration. Scupper station, this is going to, while under flooded effect, reduces the crew stamina depletion while you're under that flooded effect. Then of course the Lamari Mankin, it's got its own little sets of things. So those are the basic mechanics of building a ship in Skull and Bones, guys. Now understand, most games you get to build one character and you are stuck with that character forever coming across the game. Now you can then do a different build out on that character, and a lot of folks go, well, I wish that there was a way to save my build outs on a ship. Well, there is. You actually have to build multiple ships though. So you're allowed to build up to 40 ships in the game. I recommend keeping at least one slot open. Do not build those 40 ships, because if you aren't a ship in Death Tides or something, you can potentially lose a ship that you have built out with everything on it. That's happened to me before. Unless you were taking screenshots and videos and things to prove that you had that ship with that exact furniture and those exact weapons with that exact ascended mods on there, you're not going to get it back. So Make sure that you do keep screenshots of your stuff when you find a ship that you like. Name the ship, keep screenshots of what's on that ship, and then if something does happen, you have something to send into the Ubisoft complaint to say, hey, this is what happened, here's what I had, can you fix it? And they'll fix that for you. But unless you have evidence that you had it, they're not going to believe you, because I mean, you could come in and say, well, I had a ship with the best weapons in the world, but you never had such that, any of that stuff. Now, your Blacksmith, again, if you're looking for some seriously great weapons, I'm going to give you something that no one gave us early on in the game. Now, I'm not going to try to convince you that Coverns are bad, but I will tell you I have no use for these things. They're just pardon the language here, guys. I built a set of these Covern 5s, and I really wanted like them. They actually had a perk that had the Cell Ripper perk and all that, and it was really doing good in PvP. I was like, okay, cool, so I'm really going to focus in. And as soon as I focused in on it, they didn't nerfed all that stuff down. So the Covern 5, not really worth having. Now, there are Coverns that are worth having, which will be like your Brick Breaker 3. These do good jobs against walls and things like that. Heaven's Mandate, they're not that bad. They're not a bad weapon. I won't come out and tell you that they're great, but it's not a bad weapon. So those are some things that you could do with it. Then, of course, you have your Demi Cannons. Now, these are my favorite, the Demi Cannons. Things like the Phoenix Talons, the Zama 3. Then, of course, you have the Klein Cartois and things like that. That's not showing up in this because you can't build them. You have to actually pick those up in the pass or through events. Then you have what's known as Bombards, and I use these for a very long time now. Bombard 5s are something I'm new to using now. I've actually been able to build these up where they're putting out almost twice the amount of damage as any Bombard you're going to pick up in the game. Now, back in the day, the best Bombard that you could have in this game was called a Dardanelles gun, which is, again, it's not one that you can build. You have to pick it up from Yanita Nara, or you have to pick it up from Blackwood over there, William Blackwood. Or you might get lucky and actually get that in a cutthroat cargo. Those are worth running, by the way, guys. But the Bombard 5 can actually build out stronger than any of the other ones. Torpedoes, not had a lot of use for them. You can build the Chalet 3s and the Endless Requiems, and I've upgraded the set of those. And like I say, for me, it just wasn't for me. Now, when it comes to long guns, of course, there's a lot to be said about a long gun. A long gun 5, again, you can take and you can build this out and have a higher damage rate. Then you can add your extra effects, such as your shock, if you want to build a set of, essentially what you can do is you have a weapon. Let's see. Now, with exception to Le Piqueres, okay, you're not going to be able to build a Le Piquere, unfortunately, but you could potentially build out a Heaven's, I think it's called a Divine Thunder, and just build a long gun 5 and put electricity on everything, and that's going to give you your own Divine Thunder, and it's going to be more powerful than an actual Divine Thunder. So I do recommend, if you can and you can muster the silver, picking up the long gun 5s and the Bombard 5 blueprints. That's going to get you through the game. Now, understand, if you reach a point in the game where you can't seem to get a main mission to start, chances are you're either not ranked to that mission yet, so it's not going to let you jump in there and get your butt slaughtered, so that's a good thing, or the mission is currently glitched. Now, if you're running into a glitch where you can't turn something in because it's not letting you dock, then what you need to do is, at the title screen, it has a section over on the right hand side where you can report a bug, which is something going on in the game. Try to take a screenshot of it and then post them what it's doing and explain what's happening so that they can get that fixed. They did just fix that over with the Mother of Shipwrecks. People were having issues finishing the event where you have to turn in the brig, I believe it is. So you can run into a few of those bugs. Typically, it's nothing that resetting the game, meaning resetting your Xbox or your PlayStation, leave the game, come back in. That typically fixes these issues, but it doesn't always, so you may have to report one of those. Now, mortars, these are auxiliary weapons. So you have mortars, you have rocket types. Now, if you're wanting to get like a Warhammer or something like that, unfortunately, those are not something you're going to be able to build. You're going to have to pick that up from William Blackwood. You may be able to get those from a legacy cache over from the Yanita or something like that. But those are some things that a lot of us stacked up on in year one. But it does come over with William Blackwood. He was just selling them a few weeks ago. So be keeping an eye on that. That's why you want to be saving those Kufra bars for the more powerful weapons that are out there. When it comes to spring loaders, I myself have never had much use for them, but ripper mines, so you have like ripper mines. There's also some spring loaders that are going to do like little Grace 3. I actually use this one sometimes with some of my builds to repair my ships. Black Keeper, this is something that you can cast it on yourself or your friends. It's basically a yellow shield, looks like an energy shield. It puts a shield over your ship. Now, piercing can penetrate it, but mortars and things coming out of the sky, and you're running a fort, it's going to protect you from some of that stuff. So I do recommend that you give it some looks, see what works for you, what it is that you want to run. Bow weapons, again, like I say, ballista, sea fire weapons. I've never been too overly fond of them. I won't say they're bad. Bane of 10 Suns is mostly the only ballista I would say is probably worth using. That's just my opinion of it. Blue Spectre, I remember when I first opened that, getting the Roadman or the Mango, the original Ghost ship, we finally got some of those, and they were crap. They were like dropping like gumballs out of a broken gumball machine, and we were finally just got to where we couldn't give them away, so we were just casting them into the water because it was filling our warehouse spaces up. So now they made it so you can stack those instead of dumping them. I would recommend, if it's not something you're going to use, you're probably going to end up running into having a lot of these things. If you're running ghost ships, you're going to want to just go ahead and you can try sending it. I'm not going to tell you not to use it, but I don't have any use for them. I just come over here to the salvage items and I'll salvage that stuff personally. That's just me. So, but I hope this gives you kind of an idea of the mechanics of the game coming into it. Now, I do recommend bookmarking this video because there's a lot of stuff to go over. And assuming you're still with me, or maybe you're coming back into this video, I'm going to go ahead and give you a rundown of the Helm. When you reach a point where you reach Kingpin rank, they're going to send you back here to St. Anne, and you have to go speak to Yanita Nara over here, and she is going to essentially have you go pick up a mail item from the mail that's over by the warehouse, guys, and you're going to begin your Helm adventure. So you may not be able to get in your Smuggler hideout. If you're sitting there and you cannot access the Smuggler's hideout, or for whatever reason you're unable to access the Helm here to do any upgrades, it's probably because you haven't checked your mailbox to go get your first factory yet, which is, I believe, at least for me, it was Fort Delis. I don't know where they're going to give you the contract from, but you're going to be able to open up contracts, or you're going to be able to do what they call hostile takeovers. And assuming we have a hostile takeover up here, there's not any on the map right now. Those typically reset every 19 minutes. It'll look like a red factory or a little green factory. It'll say solo on the green, or it'll say PvP on the red, and you hold your activate button, which will be X over here on the Xbox, or it'll be the square on the PlayStation, and it's going to join you to that. Now, if you're in a solo, it's just you against the fort. You have to take the forts and the ships down and try to get that 100% mark. If you're in a PvP hostile takeover, as long as you were the last man standing or have the highest percentage of completion, you're the one who gets awarded that. So unless they change something in the game, that's how those work. As far as capturing factories, you're going to be able to get 8 when you first start your Helm, guys. It's automatically going to allow you to get 8. I do recommend here in the Empire, you want to make sure that you're picking up fast travel, your auto collect areas first. This way you don't have to send ships out. Okay, if you can do that, you're going to be able to come in here, you're going to be able to claim these produced items. Now, you're going to be allowed 8 there, so I do recommend that you come down into the Helm, and you should be picking up some pieces of 8. I'll show you where to earn some of those pretty quick. And you're going to run this first one here. It says Helm Empire. It's going to increase you by 8. Then you're going to want to come over here to the Coercive Growth. This is going to allow you to upgrade your manufactories. Every time you run a hostile takeover on it, it's going to pay you pieces 8 and upgrade that factory for free if it's one you already own. If you don't open Coercive Growth, you're going to have to pay to get those. Now, there are certain territories here, guys, that you need to be aware of. You have your Sea People, you have your Clan Farah, you have your Campaigning Royale. Then, of course, you have your Nguana. your Dutch Merchant Company and your Dominion or Rempa. Who you do first doesn't matter. What matters is that you get it done and grind at it a little bit every day. Apologize for some of the background noise, guys, but you're going to be able to get things that are going to allow you to upgrade those manufacturers by an extra level. You can take them to 2 without it, but you're going to need that to get it to a 3 on this. And then there'll be one that takes it to a 4, and then one that allows you to take it to a 5 for each territory. But you want to be able to get the coercive growth, so at least coming from level 1 to level 2, you can do that without having to pay any 8s. And it's going to pay you off later in the long run. Then, of course, you want to complete the rest of the Helm Empire as you can. If you're looking for quick 8s, I do recommend running the Helm up here. And completing this, you can do this really quick with your pieces of 8. You may be wondering what's the best way to earn pieces of 8. Well, running Mega Fort Houston is a great way. Most people run those together. But another great way is running the mini bosses. That is going to be your Fangs of the Fara, which is the events that you see me running at the beginning of the video. And these pay pieces of 8. It pays Kufra bars as well. And that's where you're going to be farming until you are able to solo Mega Fort Houston. Once you can solo this, you can earn 2,000 pieces of 8 every time you solo this thing, guys. So I hope this video has helped you out and gives you kind of a broad overview of some of the basic mechanics of the game. We will catch everyone later. If you got questions, make sure you post them down below.